What? No, not the mind probe.
Hello YouTube, and welcome to another Doctor Who product review. Today's a rather special one actually, and I do believe in the history of the 5 years of my channel, the oldest thing that I've ever in fact reviewed. And it is of course some delightful Dapol. Now these are a very important line for Doctor Who, because they're the first ever action figures that we actually got, and as you can see they don't exactly look up to scratch. That's because they came out around the 1980s, 1990s. I don't know the exact release date for them, but I do believe it was something like 1989, 1990, something like that. I tried to look online, but I couldn't really find the exact date for them. But what I do know is these are all of the Timelords that they did in fact release in the line. There was another one also going to be released, a gold one, but that was actually cancelled. Yeah, these are all the ones that were actually released. I weren't in fact going to review these, but when I put them online and that I actually got them, people seemed to be rather interested in them, and that was a recurring theme actually, because I got Sylvester McCoy and Ace at Christmas, and people seemed to really like them. There's Ace. So yeah, I might actually take a look at them one day as well, maybe if I get a few more in my collection, but these are just a little novelty that I wanted to take a look at. So the first thing that I think I should really get out of the way is this is not an actual set that you can buy. This was exclusively to the Who shop. They were never sold like this in a 4-pack, and these were essentially, I do believe, literally put together by the owner as a set of ones that you could actually buy. And yeah, so you can't exactly buy these anywhere else except the Who shop. So if you're interested and you live in London, maybe go and check them out. They're actually quite a good price. I did in fact get these for £12.99, but I do know on the website they're a little bit more. But yeah, they're a nice little novelty. Taking a look at the packaging itself, there isn't really much of it. As you can see, they're in this really nice clear tray, and they are in fact poppable out, so you can take them out, much like an actual design that was around with the Dapol line. But yeah, as you can see, they've got a clipping along the top, and then at the back we've got a little design there. So here's the backing card that comes with all the figures. It's just a little bit of paper that I've just took out to show you, but as you can see, what I love about this is at the top you have another famous Doctor Who figure from Dapol, which hence they're famous, and that's where they got the license took off them. But yeah, it's just a simple blue thing, very retro-ish, but we just have the blue background there with some stars in the background, very, very simple. And then, as always, at the bottom, nothing ever changes. I have a ton of Doctor Who legal information. I wouldn't really put it by them that this isn't, in fact, the actual official packaging that they did come with. I know that they came in a similar one, but I'm guessing that this may just be a little printout that she's put with them in the actual shop. But yeah, that's just a little bit of glossy paper. Very nice, nevertheless. Here they all are out of their little protective casing. Let's be honest, they look bloody awful, but of course they're meant to, because they're from, like, the 1990s. But ironically, even still, they still look quite good for the actual time, I think, except the heads, you know, they look a little bit weird. We'll get onto that in a little bit, but as you can pretty much see, they're all exactly the same sculpt, because they're just the exact same face, just painted slightly differently, meaning a combination when they're all together, it looks a little bit psychotic and something out of a horror film. But the funny thing is all of them have different sort of eye patterns. So the one at the very back sort of looks very shifty to the one at the left of him, and then the one at the front just looks a little bit happy to be alive, to be quite honest. But yeah, generally they're all exactly the same sculpt, and they all have different ranks, I guess. Here's the first one. I'm going to call this one the Lord President because he's in white robes, a bit like how the one was in The Deadly Assassin. But yeah, I really like this one. This one's my favourite probably out of them all. Yeah, starting off at the top, we have the face, which, let's face it, leaves a lot to be desired, doesn't it? He's very smiling and very creepy. As you can see, he's got his giant eyes there with the massive pupils, along with his sluggish eyebrows. And then at the very bottom, we have his mouth, which has been done very creepily. He has no teeth. It's sort of just a black void. Really creepy thing is, we sort of have the sculpting of the cheeks there as well. They sort of sag down along the face, make him look like he's had really bad plastic surgery. But yeah, that's been painted very sloppily. It's very basic, but he just has sort of a smiley face there. I've never seen a Time Lord that happy in his life. But yeah, especially for being the Lord President, I guess he's meant to be happy, you know, and he's probably happy that he's got a higher job rank than the other ones, such as Dave back here. But yeah, this one's got sort of his nice little skull cap type thing. As you can see, you have sort of the different embroidered edging around there with a little sort of jewel design going along the top forehead piece there, but no actual paint on this. It's just sort of like a bronzy gold colour. That does in fact go all the way back there, as you can see, sort of hard to see because of the actual sort of neck brace piece, but as you can see we have a bit of sculpting along there as well. Rather well painted. There isn't actually, as bad as the paint apps are on the face, they've actually sort of kept to where they're meant to be. They're not dribbling down the face, which is actually something ironically that can't be said about the current 3.75 character options line. So yeah, even these are managing to sort of keep in the lines a little bit better. Generally, the neck brace is a completely different bit of plastic. As you can see, it's in a separate part. It does move up and down a little bit, but once again, it's been done rather well. This has sort of been made out of this sort of very weird plastic, and I wouldn't really put it by you that this would snap quite easily. I know that quite a lot of people's did back when they were created, but yeah, these are actually all intact, which is great to see. But we have this really nice tubing around the outside. So once again, no paint application on this whatsoever. It's just been done rather well, though. We have a really nice seal of Rassilon on there, actually, which has been printed on once again rather well. We sort of have a raised piece there, and then the seal of Rassilon has been printed over the top. I really like the way they've done that, actually. It's been rather effectively done. And then at the top of the neck brace, once again, we have this really nice curving area around here, especially going around to the face itself, which is great to see. And once again, the piping continues. Moving on to the back now, there isn't really much to talk about. It's just, once again, the gold. You have the piping around the outside, but none of the piping around the back there. So yeah, nothing too much at all, really. Would be nice to have a bit of paint application on there, but as these are 1990s figures, you can't really expect much, can you? It does actually seem that depending on what ones you get, they do seem to vary in how loose these actually are. For example, this one's probably one of the loosest that we have on all of the Timelords that I currently have in this little set. But yeah, it does still stay on quite well. I wouldn't really put it by them, and that could probably come off, and it is in a separate piece. But yeah, if I do try to take it off, it will most likely snap. And hey, he looks pretty cool as he is. Along with the neck brace, he does also have the white robing underneath, as you can see. It's not really white, actually, sort of more of a creamy colour. It's actually been painted rather well, once again, as you can see, going down to the bottom there. Once again, we have this really nice creasing effect, something similar to the figures that we see these days, along with sort of the sculpting line down the side there, which has been, once again, rather well disguised. We have this piping design, which has been applied around the waist there, as you can see. The bottom one is rather beaded, actually. Then we have this wavy one around the side, and then just this simple tubing along the top, and then the same for the neck piece at the top there as well. Of sort of a little bit of a raised piece there, which is in fact an all 3D sculpt. As you can see, it does in fact stick out, much like how it would in the show. So once again, very well done. Moving on to the back, once again, the same patterning design continues, and we still have the creasing once again, along with a giant screw hole, no doubt keeping the whole thing together. The arms now, nothing really too much to talk about. Once again, it's in the same sort of creamy colour, as you can see, but interestingly, around the elbows, we in fact have these raised pieces once again, same that can be applied around the wrists as well. We sort of have a very faint design there that has in fact been engraved into the plastic, but once again, that hasn't been painted, so I don't know if that was for cost reasons or anything like that. But yeah, those are in fact there, and probably would be painted at some point if they could have actually afforded it, which, let's face it, with a face like that, they probably couldn't. To have the hands as well, these have done very simply. As you can see, they're just in the standard open palm position. We have 4 fingers and a thumb, which has been detailed fairly well, once again in the standard sort of very pinkish skin colour, so yeah, that is okay. Moving down to the very bottom now of the robes, we do have sort of this, once again, the piping effect, which has been applied with sort of this bronzy goldy colour, which is nice. And then at the very bottom, it does reveal that this is just in fact sort of a whole hollow plastic piece there, nothing that you can see. And then we just have the feet, which once again are in a creamy colour. Weirdly, you would sort of expect these to be a slightly different colour, but yeah, look a little bit like Ugg boots, I guess. But yeah, those have once again got a little bit of detailing on, not too much along the soles there, and haven't been painted whatsoever. However, they do move just a slight bit, although they're probably not meant to. They're probably just a little bit loose. Let's face it, with feet like that and a head like that, it's probably not the only thing that's loose on this figure. Taking a look at articulation now, it has a fair amount actually. We do have a little bit of articulation at the head, but once again, that could probably turn, but due to the head brace, it doesn't. We in fact have a ball joint at the arms, meaning that it can move out, which is something that I wouldn't really expect for a figure of this age. But yeah, a nice ball joint there. And then we do also have a bend at the elbow. Once again, that is on a wrist joint, which you can in fact see a nice little metal screw there, as you can see. And then that's virtually it. That's all he does, but he does in fact move out, which is nice to see. Once again, it sort of does virtually what you would expect a Timelord to do, really. Not too much. And then at the bottom, we, of course, as I said, have the legs, which do move sort of slightly if you do force them. But yeah, generally, overall, a fair amount of articulation for a little thing with robes. And generally, he looks okay. Once again, as I said, he's my favourite of the 4. Next up to take a look at, we have Castellan, or at least I think it's Castellan. He's in sort of some red robes, so essentially this is the closest that you can sort of get to the new series design. Yeah, I do believe that Castellan wore sort of these red crimsony robes in, once again, the Deadly Assassin. Don't quote me on that, though. Maybe he wore brown. I can't really remember. But yeah, for argument's sake, I'm going to call him Castellan, because hey, he looks like a Castellan. But that said, they've all got the same face, so this one also looks like a Castellan, and this one. And let's face it, they all look like Castellan. Once again, not really too much to be said, to be honest. The face does slightly vary, not because it's different, because they've just painted it slightly weirdly, but once again, he has a bit more of a piercing stare, this one. As you can see, it looks like he's going to kill you and your family. But yeah, once again, the same detailing applies. He's got the piping detailing around the cap there, as you can see. The brace has been nicely done, but this time, of course, the main difference is he's in some crimson robes as opposed to cream, which should once again be nicely done with the same creasing and things as per usual. And then we, of course, have the piping lines, which once again are exactly the same to the Lord President, which you would think that his is slightly different, but hey, let's not go into that. But yeah, we have a few little lines and things around there once again, exactly the same. Same with the neck piece at the top there, but these have just been applied in a silver paint as opposed to the sort of bronzy colour with the cream one. Same applies for the bottom once again, but this time they're a little bit fainter to the other one, but as you can see, we have the same silvery design, and his feet are a little bit more loose, so yeah, can probably dance and things. There we go, dancing Timelord. But yeah, this one also has sort of slightly more looser arms, so you can generally hug people a little bit more, or be a plane or something. But yeah, generally, he's a nice little one, as you can see once again. Same detailing generally, and once again, this one in fact has a screw on the side of it, and I've just realised in fact the neck brace does in fact tend to be a lot bigger on the Lord President. I didn't realise that before now. One of the things that I've literally just noticed, and I'm going to pretend that I knew for a very long time just to make it look like I've planned this, little headdress is in fact a lot smaller compared to the Lord President. So I'm guessing that this is in fact a Lord President figure, because you can tell that because he's got a bigger thing, because apparently they have a bigger headdress. But yeah, as you can see, it's in fact a lot bigger compared to that one. I don't know how I've not noticed that before, but yeah, this is now a standard Time Lord. So yeah, he is in fact still quite an important one with him being Castellan, but yeah, he still doesn't deserve the bigger headdress. But as you can see, generally, exactly the same idea. We still have the seals of Rassilon nicely printed on there once again, but this time in fact the pipeline goes all the way around as opposed to like just on the bottom bit. And as well, when you turn it over to the opposite side, we also have the pipelining along the top as well, which is something that is in fact absent from the Lord Presidents here. Because this one's got a small headdress, you can also see a screw, which is apparently hidden by the Lord President one. So yeah, he's generally smaller overall, really, but other than that, he's generally exactly the same sculpt. Next up, we have generic Time Lord number 1, or at least that's what I think he is, and that's what I'm going to call him. And if he's got another name, I don't particularly care. But yeah, surprise, surprise, it's pretty much exactly the same, but this time it's in a darker chocolatey brown colour. We've got exactly the same headdress to the Castellan one, therefore it's a lot smaller. But what I love about this one is the fact of the head is exactly the same once again, but it's a little bit more dodgily done. As you can see, once again, we have the sluggish eyebrows very much prominent, but what I love is the fact of his pupils in his eyes are completely to the left of the figure, making him look extremely shifty and sort of looking very dodgily at the thing next to him. So yeah, very creepily done once again, but I find it quite funny. And once again, we have the void in his mouth, which is very weird, but this time we have sort of like a bit of spree around the lower half of his face, sort of making it look like that he's got a very dodgy beard or something. Either that or he's got like a very lumpy face. But yeah, that's probably the way that the paint has been applied, which, let's face it, with these being old, I'm surprised that the paint doesn't in fact have lead in or something. I'm probably going to in fact die at the end of this video. So yeah, great. I've noticed this time is sort of the band that goes along the waist is in fact all one colour. As you can see, we have the same detailing once again of the beadish one, the wiggly one, and then the straight one at the top, but this time they've not just painted them individually, they've in fact gone and painted the whole thing all the way around, as you can see. But ironically, they've sort of missed a bit of paint under the arms. But yeah, they've just gone and decided to do a complete band for that one, and we have the same design at the top there, but this time it's not a band. And then at the very bottom, once again, we have the same wiggly design once again, along with the little moving feet. But yeah, generally exactly the same. And then at the back, once again, we have the same banding which has been done, and then the border on it at the arms and things, although the screw is still prominent and they haven't decided to paint it or anything. So he's still got sort of like a giant silver smartie coming out of his elbow. No wonder he's looking concerned about life. But yeah, that's him. He's fun. I'm going to name him probably Castellan's friend from the Deadly Assassin, which I can't remember his name. But yeah, Gallifreyan Castellan friend, man. Either that or generic Time Lord number 1, which I kind of like a little bit more. Speaking of generic Time Lords, we have another one. This is going to be his buddy, which quite frankly looks a lot more concerned than all the others. Just look at that face. Hello, how are you? I'm a Lord President of Gallifrey, or at least I will be when I kill the Lord President. A lot more psychotic than all the others. As you can see, he's pretty much exactly the same to the others, except that his headdress is a little bit more wobbly, no doubt from his very shaky face, which looks really creepy. Hello. This time, as you can see, no prizes for guessing what's different. He's this time in sort of like a light grey. She does actually look a little bit more darker on camera, but as you can see, once again, exactly the same. Things applied that happened on the chocolatey brown one is that the banding around the waist is in fact not an individually painted thing. It's in fact just a black band going all the way around the waist once again, but generally exactly the same. But this time he looks a lot more psychotic than all the others. He just looks a little bit weird. Yeah, I'm going to put him down now before he kills me. Doing a comparison with the rest of my Dapol collection, as you can see, my Dapol collection is pretty small, and I would love to get more in the future because I think they're very nostalgic and very retro and very cool. But yeah, as you can see, they fit in rather well, actually, to be honest. I think they're nicely painted, actually, and I think that by far, except and minus the heads, they are pretty well designed. I think that they are generally very light. The painting is quite sloppy in parts, but generally, except the head, they are pretty alright, and they do fit in very well with the 7th Doctor. And his handbag actually pointed out that these look very much like the ones I've seen in the 5th Doctor doctors when they turn into stone and they're put on the side of Rassilon's tomb. Especially that one, Mr. Shifty over here. But yeah, now he looks very suspicious at Ace. Yeah, he's probably got to kill her in a second. Yeah, I'm going to move on to the next comparison now before something happens. Just for a bit of fun, comparing the Dapol Timelords to the character options one, as you can see, of course, it is far more detailed, and it's a great example of how far that toys have came in the last 15 to 20 years, because of course it is a lot bigger, a lot more detail in there, and certainly the face is less psychotic. So just for a bit of fun, comparing them to the character options 3.75 figures, as you can see, these ones definitely actually fit in quite well, to be honest. They're around the same scale. Less can be said, of course, around the other ones that they did, but generally the Time Lords seem to be the correct size for 3.75, unlike John Pertwee or the other ones that they did was too tall, but they're lacking detail on the face and not being able to tell who they in fact are. It's a recurring theme for the character options line as well, so generally for a line that's actually probably about 20 years younger than the character options one, that is actually showing how bad the 3.75 line is, to be quite honest, isn't it? Because you can't tell either way, and he still looks depressed as anything. But yeah, they're fitting quite well. It's a nice little happy family, isn't it? So overall for this review, well, they're a bit of fun, aren't they? Honestly, they're a bit of nostalgia for Doctor Who toy history. And personally for me, somebody who, as I say, very much likes the merchandise line, I think these are quite cool because they are essentially the very beginning, the very first things that we ever got of an action figure line for Doctor Who. And for me, that's an interesting thing. Although they do look bad, although the paint is probably poisonous, although they do look absolutely terrible, and the one at the back still looks very, very psychotic, I still quite like them. I think that generally they have a nice amount of detail for the actual size, bearing in mind they're 1980s figures, and for the time that they were released, they're a nice little fun thing as well, even though they aren't the highest of quality. If you're a toy collector and very much like the older merchandise like me, I will probably recommend these actually if you could try and find them. I do know that quite a lot of places sell them singly. I know especially the President Time Lord at the front is a little bit more expensive than the others, but generally I think for £12.99 personally when I got them in London, I got them for a bloody bargain, because they're a great bit of Doctor Who history, 4 whole Dapol figures for that much, and generally I would rather pay £12.99 for some creepy looking figures rather than a 3.75 Dalek or Cyberman to add to my collection that's already about 60,000 times bigger than these. But yeah, overall, I quite like them actually. Thanks for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please do give it a big like. Please subscribe if you're not already. If any questions, please do leave them below and I'll be sure to answer them at some point in the near future. Thanks again for watching and I shall see you all next time. So thanks for watching and bye for now.